Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Federal High Court jails former People's Democratic Party spokesman Olisa Metu for 7 years after convicting him on 7 counts of fraud and money laundering. Inspector General of Police scraps zonal intervention squads across the country following death of footballer Kazim Tiamiu, allegedly caused by the police. Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria takes over the Abuja residence and company of President Buhari's former ally, Buba Galadima, over debts amounting to 900 million naira. And Iran's Deputy Health Minister, Iraj Harichi, and a member of parliament both test positive for the new coronavirus. Plus, we have business, sports, news from Abuja, the FCT, and later, international news from our London studios. Our website, channeltv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire and Roku TV. Let's head over to Abuja for some more stories now. Here's Malkwe Ogun. Hello, Malkwe.
Hello, Millicent. It's good to see you again. We welcome our viewers to our Abuja studios. Now, a bill for an act to amend the Constitution to extend immunity to cover presiding officers of legislative institutions has passed the second reading in the House of Representatives. The bill was supported by the majority of lawmakers who say it's important to safeguard the sanctity of the National Assembly. Lawmakers who oppose the bill argue that it's coming at a time when there are calls for the withdrawal of immunity from state governors. Our correspondent Terry Ikumi reports.
Order 52.
During Tuesday's plenary session in the Senate, following a motion from the minority leader, the Senate resolved to urge the Character Commission, as any action to the contrary would be a breach of the act establishing the commission and the Constitution.
That the Federal Character Commission body, as constituted, has lapsed since 2018.
Further away.
The matter was also raised in the Green Chamber.
The Federal Character Commission up till now is parading only one commissioner, who now is the acting chairman and functions in place of the 37 commissioners made provision for by the Enabling Act by the National Assembly. Democracy has come.
Meanwhile, one of the bills listed for second reading seeks to alter the Constitution and provide immunity for presiding officers of legislative houses.
In spite of uninterrupted concentration required for carrying out effective legislative duty, this institution has suffered serious destruction.
While some lawmakers support the move, others condemn the timing and question its relevance.
We do not need any immunity now. I am already personally against the immunity currently enjoyed by the president and the governors.
At this time in our nation, what is important is the provision of security to our people.
I've talked about the political climate in this country, and you have suffered it in the past. If you remember correctly what I'm talking about, malicious prosecution. You were prosecuted maliciously. You can be a presiding officer tomorrow.
The reason, or the wisdom of the drafters of this constitution, when they were doing it, was to create a kind of shield, administrative shield, for head of executive's arm of government, so that these officials of government may not be unnecessarily distracted from discharging their responsibility.
For almost the entire part of the 8th Assembly, the President of the Senate was in and out of trial at the Code of Conduct Tribunal. This, the lawmakers say, was quite destabilizing for the National Assembly. They do not want to see a repeat of that. The bill has now hit the public hearing stage, and it would be interesting to hear the views of Nigerians on it. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Well, let's get some more insight into the bill, which is seeking to grant immunity to principal officers of the National Assembly and perhaps state assemblies as well. We're now being joined by Senator Magnus Abe, who is a member of the 8th National Assembly. You're welcome to the News at 10.
Thank you, Margaret.
Well, this is not the first time this bill is coming up. It came up in the 8th Assembly, which you were a part of. Why do you think it's coming up again?
Well, I think that if you look at things from the perspective of the legislators, you will understand why some of them feel very strongly about these issues, because they feel that this kind of rules will not only bring them at par with the executive, which they see as a co-equal branch of government, but to be able to protect them from what they view as harassment of legislators.
But have any matters really come up to warrant this?
That's the point I would like to make here. For me, what is critical at this point, every law has a particular illness or problem that it seeks to settle or stop in the community. If you look at our legislature as it is today, what difference exactly would this bill make to the ability of the legislators to do their job? I really don't see what major difference it is going to make. With the protection they currently enjoy, which gives every legislator immunity based on whatever they say within the National Assembly, I don't think there's any real emergency in extending the immunity clause to them that will relate to their actions outside the legislature. So I think they may have issues with the public when it comes to that particular aspect of it.
Well, it's skilled second reading now. It's going to be a constitutional amendment. How long is the journey if it's actually going to become law?
I think it still has a long way to go. If it passes second reading in the House of Reps, you still have to go through it in the Senate. And as a constitutional amendment, you're going to need 2/3 majority to pass it. And then when you have passed it, you still have to get 2/3 of the houses of assembly to approve it. I really don't think all that will be a problem, because these are the beneficiaries of the law and they are the ones dealing with the law. But for the public would have issues with it, because if you give immunity to the legislature, at some point people are also going to ask for immunity for the judiciary. And at a time when people want to see a limitation or a restriction of immunity, this cannot be the right time to expand it. If you look at even countries like the US, for example, there is no constitutional provision of immunity for the president or anybody. But the people, the courts on their own, have given them immunity for what are their actions within their official capacity. It's not provided by law. But they don't enjoy any immunity for acts that are done outside of their office, which I think is what Nigerians enjoy and which they now want to extend across the board. I don't think it will be very popular with the Nigerian people.
So, of course, I mean, that will be the implications. Or would there be any further implications, apart from the fact that it's going to be unpopular with Nigerians?
Well, in terms of providing security and confidence to the leaders of the legislature to be bolder in their actions, I think that may provide that psychological booster. But as we have come to discover, it's not the laws that actually make the difference in how people behave. It's the surrounding circumstances that relate to how they come up, how they get their positions, how they even become members of a legislature that determine their behavior. So whatever kind of immunity that you provide, say for the speaker, for example, as long as a governor still has the power to handpick every single member of the House of Assembly, that immunity is not going to make much of a difference in terms of what is actually going to happen.
But do you think it should be a priority?
Personally, at this time, I do not think that given the current challenges that we're facing as a nation, that we should devote much time to this kind of thing at a time when there is no real need for it, so to speak, in my opinion. But like I said, if you look at it from the perspective of the lawmakers, you will understand why they think that this is important for them. But I don't think it will make that much of a difference.
Well, Senator Magnus Abe, thank you for coming on the News at 10 tonight.
Thank you, Margaret.
And moving on to other stories, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, is seeking to incorporate anti-corruption courses into the university curriculum at different degree levels. According to the acting EFCC chairman, Mr. Ibrahim Mago, the partnership with universities is aimed at equipping students with the right knowledge to fight and eliminate corruption in the country. Mr. Mago was speaking at a meeting with officials of the University of Abuja and Ahmadu Bello University.
To bring education, to sensitize all Nigerians, people will be create awareness, and this is very, very important. We also want to collaborate. Collaboration is the main thing. We want to collaborate with everybody so that less people even accept that corruption is wrong. So it's very, very necessary. Educating the people, sensitizing, creating awareness, making people feel responsible in the fight against corruption. Take ownership of the fight against corruption. We also look at the criminal justice, we review the Criminal Justice Act, etc., etc. In the area of forensic investigation, and there are a lot of things that can be done with them.
According to the 2018 World Health Organization report, 1 in every 10 medical products in developing countries is substandard or fake. In order to effectively check the menace of counterfeit medicines, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, is asking all its sister agencies in Africa to close ranks. The NAFDAC Director General, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, made the call at the Conference of African Medicine Quality Forum in Abuja.
Every year, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, confiscates and destroys counterfeit drugs in Nigeria. For instance, NAFDAC enforcement reports for 2018 reveals that the agency destroyed counterfeit drugs worth over 3.2 billion naira. Yet, the menace of falsified medicine continues to threaten the well-being of Nigerians.
Thank you. We may be seated.
Discussions about how to strengthen regional and continental efforts to dislodge the criminal networks behind this crime is the core reason why the African Medicine Quality Forum is holding in Abuja.
I always say that if a country regulatory agency is strong but surrounded with weak regulatory agencies, that strong regulatory agency is a matter of time. Things will start happening. So we've got to rely on each other to strengthen each other.
I also enjoined AMQF to develop a framework to conduct regular medicines quality surveys across regional and national boundaries, and to provide governments with reliable data on distribution of substandard and falsified medicines, and also for planning safe healthcare delivery to our citizens.
According to NAFDAC, Nigeria imports over 70% of life-saving drugs, just as the WHO 2018 report reveals that an estimated 1 in 10 medical products circulating in low and middle-income countries are fake. The Chairman House Committee on Health Care Services insists that NAFDAC must step up its monitoring and enforcement of standards.
The enforcement aspect of the NAFDAC is what I think should be reverberating. Where you have a law and you have a prohibition, but you cannot enforce it, that calls for another rethink. And I think we have already had a brainstorm with the NAFDAC DG, and she has agreed that enforcement will be given a deserved attention it requires.
It is hoped that this network of regulators will be strong enough to dislodge those criminals who profit largely from falsified and substandard medicine in the continent.
When the News at 10 returns, African Development Bank President Akinwumi Adesina gets AU nod for a second term in office. That's on Business News. Do join us again.